Let's explore how meditation could help us access buried feelings. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. Is it common to be able to access repressed emotions at will? So, let's just read what this fellow wrote. Now, my job is not to be cruel. My job is not to be antagonistic. My job is how to give people the answers they need. Not always the answers they desire, but the answers they need. In a way that will speed up their spiritual journey. Let's begin. During meditation, I've noticed this ball of sadness. I think that's the best way to describe it. So right off the bat, there's something here that smacks of... Well, let's continue. I spent time observing it, then I opened it up and was flooded with sadness. As this happened, I had distressed thoughts appear in a childlike tone. After a while, I was hit with memory after memory of my childhood. If it wasn't for these two factors, I wouldn't feel confident in calling them repressed emotions. I stopped and closed it back up after 20 minutes. Then I repeated it the next day. After that, I have it surfacing at random times, which also seems a pretty common trait of repressed emotions. I've been working on it for the past week for about 20 minutes each day, while also keeping the random appearances in control. I've looked around to see others' experiences and haven't really found anything highly relevant on the topic. So I'd like to ask if this is common, and if anyone has had any experiences that are similar in nature. So we're going to begin with broad brushstrokes before entertaining fine details. So I've been at this the entirety of my spiritual life, helping people in various traditions try to make progress on the path. Beginning with Christianity and then moving into Buddhism. So I've had the privilege and the burden of having many, many conversations with many, many people. And after a while, we begin to notice patterns. And I'm not the first to notice patterns. Many, many, many people who come before me have noticed patterns, including the famous Carl Gustav Jung, one of the most famous acolytes of Dr. Sigmund Freud. And what good old Carl Gustav Jung observed is that these archetypes are independent of culture. They're independent of ethnicity. They are universal. Wherever humans are found, these archetypes are found, which makes aficionados of neuroscience begin to suspect that they are more organic than they are psychological. They're not transmitted by word, but by the very nature and complexity of our wiring. You see, one of the things that really makes Homo sapiens sapiens stand apart is not the fleetness of foot or strongness of limb, not the sharpness of claw, nor the length of fang, but the fact that the two C's, we are moderately clever and we can cooperate. Anthropologically speaking, in human societies, those with the most prestige were given the most food and the most reproductive opportunities. we are wired to seize upon these opportunities. We are wired to reach these opportunities. We do not reach for these opportunities because we believe in a self, or because we're arrogant. We are wired to do these things. These things are survival imperatives. They're universal. We all have them. It's not a question of who has self-importance, but rather who is aware of the self-importance. Big difference. This archetype is explored eloquently in the interaction between Jesus and John the Baptist. Now, I'm not going to say I was raised to be a clueless little Jew. When I first heard about John the Baptist, I didn't visualize another Jew with long hair and a beard baptizing people in the river. I imagined a man in a tower with a jacuzzi. Derp. So here's a passage I wish to regale you with from the 3rd chapter of Matthew. Then cometh Jesus from Galilee to Jordan unto John to be baptized of him. John forbade him, saying, I have need to be baptized of thee, and comest thou to me? That's the archetype right there. Whether it's Morpheus watching Neo saying with muttering and awe and tones of awe, he is the one. All of us want our teachers, whether they are Bible teachers or prayer teachers or meditation teachers or Dharma teachers, whether they are Roshis or Shifus or Bantis or Ajahns or Lamas or Tulkus or Gurus or Swamis. All of us want our teachers to say, you are the chosen one. I am unworthy to be your teacher. You should be my teacher. Whether we know it or not, whether we feel it or not, it is an archetype. The question is simply, do we have the emotional, the perceptual acuity to see the filthy McNasties swarming and swirling and undulating beneath our civil facade? This is a universal archetype. Perhaps it's one of the reasons that a universal nickname for full enlightenment is nothing special. This nickname is found in Japan. This nickname is found in Tibet. In terms of Asian cultures go, they are very far from each other, and they did not have a lot of contact with each other in the distant past. So there's probably many, many reasons for this nickname, including the fact that despite the ravings of societal expectations, there is nothing supernatural about enlightenment. Buddhism is nothing more, Buddhism should be nothing more than the practice of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Enlightenment is nothing more than the mastery of that path. It consists not in signs or omens or parlor tricks. Mastery just means we've gotten to the point in our training, whatever we're training in, that we can practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. For instance, when I was a clueless little boy, I found the prospect of tying my own shoes to be daunting. But after time and effort and repeated instructions and tears, eventually, by the time I got to the 1st grade, I could tie my shoes spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. At long last, I had mastered tying my shoes. I'm sure you did too. So when we have good quality instruction, we learn that the practice of the Eightfold Path is remarkably easy, and it's open to every healthy human. Our central nervous system has been optimized by some happy coincidences of evolution to optimize us for mindfulness and meditation and empathy. All we got to do is learn how to dance with our central nervous system in the most efficient way. About 100 years before the advent of the Buddha, over in China, good old Lao Tzu either compiled or composed or both the 81, or a combination of both, the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. One looks at them and reads them over and over again, one notices a pattern of not only identifying which human attributes are yang and yin, but of reminding us several times to always choose yin. This idea either spontaneously developed in Buddhism or migrated to Buddhism. And instead of referring to things as yin and yang, we refer to things as Gautama and his wicked cousin Devadatta. So Devadatta could be allegedly thought that being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel was peachy keen. And Gautama felt the opposite, that it's far better to be flexible, loving, laid back, rational, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Simply put, Devadatta is about being rigid and controlling. The Buddha was about being flexible and laid back. The language of the question not only reveals the self-important universal quest of specialness, of being special and being exceptional, but a controlling thing. I opened this. I closed this. I worked on this. I've observed this. And once again, I'm not trying to beat anybody up. I'm just trying to shed light on areas. I'm giving the person who wrote this question the benefit of the doubt and assuming they really want to become enlightened. They can't become enlightened until someone or something shows these tendencies to them. Let's continue. Certitude versus flexibility. Whenever we're controlling, that's the path of Devadatta. Whenever we are certain or rigid, that is the path of Devadatta. Whenever we are flexible and laid back, that is the path of Gautama, the path of the Buddha. Consider these two statements. This is how it is versus this is how it seems. And you can see the complete rigidity of the first sentence and the wiggle room inherent in the second sentence. Come, let us explore a tale of two physicists. A high school physics teacher is pretty far from the cutting edge of research, and they tend to have a very rigid approach to the study and practice of physics. Contrast that with a physician, a lettered PhD, working at CERN, who's at the cutting edge of physics research, who is inundated by the adjustment of old paradigms and the exposure to new information heretofore never observed. That's the antidote for rigidity. This is reflected in the Dunning-Kruger effect, where those who are the least qualified are the most confident, and those who are the most qualified are the least confident. That's not because they lack self-esteem, it's because they have a surplus of data dispelling them of the illusion of their omniscience. We really There is the myth of the alpha male. The person who first proposed this myth spent the rest of his career striving to debunk the myth, recognizing that the idea of the alpha male was based on a very, 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 very small sample size and based on an absence of a control group. It turned out that the behavior he was observing amongst captive wolves was not their inherent behavior, but their maladaptive behavior to being in captivity. And once released, all those maladaptive behaviors went away. There are entire segments of the human population who would view Devadatta as being alpha, and would view Gautama as being weak, and the spiritual luminaries would disagree. Now, sadly, in human affairs, whether they be religious or spiritual or secular or vocational or recreational or platonic or intimate, there is a large human demographic, a universal found in every subdivision of humanity, that thinks that the path of Devadatta is the path to follow. These are the people hungry for positions of prestige, authority, and power. And so we have this great irony of these are the people who become Thomas de Torquemada of the Spanish Inquisition. The people on Gautama's path are the ones who become St. Francis of Assisi. Thomas de Torquemada had great power, prestige. St. Francis of Assisi didn't. But he is the benchmark by which human spirituality is measured, or one of those benchmarks. So let's continue. Is it common to be able to access repressed emotions? So it is common for repressed emotions to come up. That is healthy. It's not always convenient. It's not always pleasurable, but it's healthy and it's normal. It's how we are wired. It's how our sympathetic and parasympathetic facets of our autonomic nervous system interact with the 3-pound supercomputer between our ears. Doing it at will is detrimental. First of all, it's somewhat exaggerated, which is common for hubris, but it's also detrimental. The path of Devadatta is to be controlling. The path of the Buddha is to be laid back. The path of Devadatta is to force things. The path of the Buddha is to allow things. We can notice all sorts of things in meditation. We are wired. Every time we breathe in, we are wired to access the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord. It has evolved to notice things vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. It has evolved to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. It has evolved to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. It has evolved to notice the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. I spent some time observing it, then I opened it up and was flooded with sadness. So this is either 100% accurate, and it's an example of indulging our controlling tendencies, or this is worded in a way to make the person who's writing it sound or feel more empowered than they are. As this happened, I had distressed thoughts appear in a childlike tone. Then after a while, I was hit with memory after memory of my childhood. If it wasn't for these two factors, I wouldn't feel confident in calling them repressed emotions. It's not our job to label our experience. Labeling and organizing are two facets of our controlling tendencies. Where people on the path of Devadatta will break out the thesaurus and attempt to find the exact, precise label of their experience. On the path of Gautama, we are content with the universal label of this. So let us not waste time and energy finding the perfect label when the demonstrative pronoun this already exists. I stopped and closed it back up after 20 minutes, once again indulging our controlling tendencies. This may not be accurate. This may be just how it seemed. This may be how it was. Either way, it's the more we try to control our experience, the more detrimental it becomes. As a child, like many of us, I watched Warner Brothers' Merry Melodies, and in one episode that really stuck with me, there was a Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck teaming up. This is the episode I quote where Bugs Bunny says, I took a wrong turn in Albuquerque. And they wind up in the Middle East, and it's full of really, really, really racist archetypes. A lot of Merry Melodies have not aged well. By the very end of the cartoon, Daffy Duck is doing an inventory of all his riches, and he stumbles upon Aladdin's lamp. And out comes the genie, and he immediately thinks the genie wants to steal his wealth. And so he jumps on top of the genie and forces his back into the lamp. This does not go well for our friend Daffy Duck. The genie turns red and bellows, "You have desecrated the genie of the lamp." And then, of course, something really unfortunate happens to our friend Daffy Duck. So the same thing happens when we try to control our experience. Metaphorically, not the exact same thing, but the metaphoric thing happens. By trying to exert our will over the functions of our mind, bad things happen. Not superstitious things, just our central nervous system works best when we flow with it rather than when we try to dominate it. After that, I now have it servicing at random times. Whether the author of this means to or not, this is dripping with controlling and self-important language. Once again, I'm not saying this to beat him or her up. I'm assuming this person wants to grow. The price of growth is to acquire a healthy assessment of where we're at. I've been working on it for the past week, about 20 minutes each day, and also keeping the random appearances in control. Can you feel this machismo, this control, the superiority, this, I'm Brock Wakeham. I'm a spiritual superhero. I'm an action hero. I am Neo. You're unworthy to teach me. Look how awesome I am. You're getting this kind of a vibe. The problem isn't that he selected those words and he should have selected better words. The problem is he's on the path of Devadatta. And he will get better results on the path of Gautama. I've looked around to see others' experience and haven't really found anything highly relevant on the topic, which infers because I'm exceptional and everyone else should be busy getting about the business of worshiping me. Once again, he might not be thinking this consciously, but this is being inferred. And any therapist worth his salt would recognize this. I'm not a therapist, I'm just a spiritual counselor. So ask if this is common and if anyone has had experiences that are similar in nature. So this may be sincere on some level, but on another level, it's a false humility seeking to establish self-importance. Like, each of us are wired to want to be viewed as the chosen one. Whether it's Jesus, who should be baptizing John, but instead must be baptized by John, whether it's Neo, he should be teaching Morpheus, but instead is being taught by Morpheus, whether it's the tale taught by Lama Surya Das of his first time meditating with the Dzogchen master, and then relating his experiences to his teacher, and his teacher being so unimpressed. This is normal. This happens universally. Regardless of gender, regardless of country, regardless of ethnicity, this is a universal archetype. We all struggle with it. The only question is, do we admit it, or do we live in denial of it? Do we learn from the people trying to point it out to us, or do we hate and loathe and attack those trying to point it out to us? Some people point things out because they are malicious or they have an ulterior motive. Some people point things out because they are loving and they have a sincere and simple motive. So let's tie this up in a nice red bow. Due to the nature of our sympathetic nervous system, we are already wired to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Due to the nature of our parasympathetic nervous system, we are already wired to physically relax and mentally release during each exhalation. That is how we cope with whatever comes up. Whether what comes up is external, internal, physical, mental, pleasurable, painful, interesting, boring, glorious, or grotesque. The seventh enlightenment factor is equanimity, it's balance, it's having the same reaction to whatever comes up. What's the same set of reactions? Notice as we breathe in, relax as we breathe out. That is the key to the Eightfold Path. The seventh fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is mindfulness. The eighth fold is meditation. This is the dynamo that turns the wheels and cogs of the enlightenment machine. This is that which generates effortless effort. A right view of impermanence, as well as the four loving kindnesses of mind, speech, body, and circumstance. This is the dynamo that drives our practice of the Eightfold Path, no less its mastery. I do look forward to exploring the finer details with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism, making every conceivable mistake so that you won't have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Let's begin this morning's formal practice with Kind Gaze's easy meditation. Described in Sanskrit as Avalokiteshvara and described in Tibet as Shenrei Zig. Kind gaze is viewed by those who are rigid, fearful, and controlling as an entity to be worshipped and supplicated. However, for those of us on the path of being flexible, loving, and laid back, kind gaze is merely an archetype, a collection of iconography that reminds us that we are already wired to master, no less practice, awareness and letting go, love and letting go, as well as bliss and letting go. Please chant with me. A life in combat, take 2. A life squandered in combat, take 3. So we have a image of the historical teacher, Padmasambhava, one of the people who brought Tantra to Tibet. In this, he serves as an archetype for us, the meditation student. Above his head, we see the archetype of the teaching or the teachers or various sensations. This archetype is going to come and play indirectly in the following chant. Let's chant together. A life squandered in competition and great leads not to peace and fulfillment, better to live in cooperation and generosity. At lives and made this mind shoot out crowns on, purifying, multiplying, and offering my stuff to purifying, multiplying, and offering my stuff to beings of nirvana and samsara. I think I forgot an adjective. Okay. Let's move this bad boy over here. All right, so I think that's going to work a little bit better. I'm going to Okay, let's try this again. Thank you, Jay. That's very kind of you. So, let's do this again. Oh, the fun of live time editing, eh? A life squandered in competition and greed leads not to peace and fulfillment, better to live in cooperation and generosity. At lives and made this might shoot out Crowns, purifying, transforming, multiplying, and offering my stuff to all beings of nirvana and samsara. So we just recited a clunky thing. We're going to reduce it down to 6 syllables. We're going to silently and mentally recite the first 6 syllables during the inhalation and the second 6 syllables during the exhalation. And I find it useful to count the following 4 rounds, assuming a round is one inhalation followed by one exhalation. I find it useful to count the following 4 rounds on the 3 creases and 1 tip of my right little finger, advancing the tip of my left thumb during each inhalation. Together. Having performed that exercise, we now prepare to rest the mind. As we inhale, we choose to kick back and simply watch the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. We facilitate this during our inhalation by silently and mentally reciting the demonstrative pronoun this. Similarly, during our exhalation, we relax into mind's non-graspable nature. As silently and mentally, we recite the 1-syllable verb, ease. So, in continuing with the practice of Bengali crease counting, having already worked with the left little finger, we turn our attention to the ring finger. And so you've seen a pattern at this point. Well, let me jump back for a second. Even though I lifted my hand up so it could be visible on the camera, I recommend keeping your hands in your lap, one upon the other, as it is more ergonomically sound and physiologically sustainable, whether or not we are sitting in tantric union or not. So this is the pattern we're going to use over and over again, going from exercise to rest. Having climbed to contemplative cruising altitude, together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as young Luke Skywalker on Dagobah under the guidance of Yoda. Now, if I was really cool, I could imitate Yoda, but I'm just not that cool. So, arguably, this exercise here was not only training our heart in generosity and our mind in impermanence, but it was also training our body in bliss and channels, winds, and drops, bringing our energy to our crown. We're going to play with another exercise in the same family of bliss and letting go, known by some as Tikle and others as Bindu Mahamudra. Only instead of working with the crown, we're going to work with the heart. Please chant with me. Let us invite real Ramaj and Lama and Rezik to our heart mind, that in the union of bliss and letting go we may train. During the inhalation, we are already wired to generate a vertical traction between our tush and our head. You don't have to force it, just let it happen. And now let us rest in spontaneous awareness and release. Let us view letting go through a philosophical lens, as simultaneously we bring the illusion of the horizontal duality of us and them, that Pink Floyd sang about, into the dance of impermanence and interdependence known as Madhyamaka's yoga of inconceivability. Very fancy words. Please chant with me. All circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. This is welcome to the delicious irony of using our own self-centeredness as a tool to facilitate letting go of that same self-centeredness. So this is really clunky. This is one run-on sentence. Look at this bad boy. So we're going to shrink it, just like putting a wool garment and washing a wool garment in hot water. We're going to shrink it down to this exercise. So we've contemplated impermanence and interdependence, and now we're going to just relax. And so these are passive contemplations, which work much better than active ones. So the path of Devadatta, the path of pseudo-spiritual patriarchy, is a lot about elitism, a lot about control. And it's not a coincidence that the ancient texts which denigrate the path of patriarchy, the path of Devadatta, are the texts that are considered restricted and forbidden by those same people who have clawed their way into positions of pseudo-spiritual leadership. If someone tells you a Dzogchen text is forbidden, Ignore them. Find someone who will teach you. It won't make you jump through hoops. Save that for the tigers of the circus. Which, by the way, shouldn't be done. It's not our job to exploit other beasties. Let's chant. We're basically, the Buddha taught the four bases of mindfulness: the circumstantial, the physical, the interpersonal, the mental. So we began with the circumstantial, and we're now heading our way towards the physical. Please chant with me. All bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communicational speech. All interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind. We're rational individuals. Why do we work with metaphors and similes? Because all complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically. And whether we like to admit it or not, working with similes and metaphors and hyperbolic statements reach a very deep, deep corner of our mind. All minds could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although tantalizing to the eye could be non-graspable to the hand. So, we have worked with bliss and letting go, known as Tikle or Bindu Mahamudra. We have worked with awareness and letting go, known as Trekcho or Sutra Mahamudra. Now we're going to play with love and letting go, described in Sanskrit as Tantra Mahamudra, described in Tibetan as leap over or Tokal. Let us begin by reviewing the meaning of the mantra together. Om I invoke the wish of heading Mani jewel of love and the purifying beamy lotus of letting go, supplicating with whom may love and letting go be mastered by all. Let us bring the experience of the four bases of mindfulness into the conventional path of love and letting go, where it is love that is emphasized, and it is jealousy that is leapt over. Rather than indulge all controlling tendencies with our bodies of visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could just recite these words of love in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Welcome, my friends, to the lazy bastard path of enlightenment. Together. May whole minds of all beings know be as peacefully wise as the mind of a real or imagine Buddha symbolized by a tikle, one syllable seed or bija mantra. So we're going to take this big old huge sentence and squeeze it down to just 6 syllables. Bija wise for all minds. I would like it. All beings on this planet developed the wisdom of cooperation and kindness, the wisdom of sustainability. That would be fabulous. And now let's oopsie. So now we're going to take these same 6 syllables and blend them with mantra recitation. During in-breath, we're going to silently, mentally, and passively recite this italicized bit. During our exhalation, we're going to physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this 6-syllable mantra 8 times per breath. And if this is your first time, please give yourself permission to have a learning curve. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. And now we rest in spontaneous awareness and release. May our relationships of all beings now be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddhist communication symbolized by the 6-syllable mantra. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. May all bodies or forms of all beings now enjoy the beautiful, healthy picture seen in Buddhist statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Devi or Yidam and archetype of enlightenment, such an archetype of enlightenment such as Chenrezig. mani mimi yung, om 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 mani mimi yung. May all circumstances or loss of all beings now have the good fortune or boon. As a Buddha's real or imagined, paradise, perlando, vanti. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Now let us view letting go through a physiological lens as we bring the experience of the four bases of mindfulness into the ultimate path of love and letting go, where it is letting go that is emphasized and it is pride that is leapt over. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for literal statements, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. Oops. Okay, here we go. As we inhale, our circumstances, our lots could appear quite vivid. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined paradise or vati of light. As we inhale, our bodies or forms could feel quite sensual. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable of what is real or imagined octopoiedom of light. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. As we inhale into the interpersonal experience of communication or speech, as we inhale, the interpersonal experience of communication or speech could sound quite resounding. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, it could feel as non-graspable or what is a real or imagined mantra of light. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. As we inhale, we could notice our mind's perceptions, emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings quite clearly. Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable of what is a real or imagined bija seed settable of light. mani me me om mani me me mani me me. Let us bring the five body regions into the path of bliss and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever lower abdomen we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined amagosides, mustard seeds, isotable of green lines. As we relax into our exhalation, the area behind the navel that we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined ratnasambhavas, mustard seeds, isotable thrum of gold light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever just we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined akshobyas, mustard seeds, isotable hunga blue lights. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever threat we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined amitabhas, mustard seeds, isotable tree of red light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever chronoscope we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined vadochanas, mustard seeds, isotable of white light. Let us bring the spontaneous play of mind into the path of awareness and letting go. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. Relaxing into this. This is whatever comes up spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. This is whatever we, whatever sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, or the like we perceive. This refers to whatever emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, or imaginings we experience. This refers to the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. Whoops, a little got carried away. Om mani mimi yung mani mimi yung 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 Om mani mimi Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Let us seal this morning's practice by percussively chanting loving wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds of all beings lucid yet void now be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by a one syllable bija. May all speech of all beings resounding yet void now be as loving as a Buddha's speech symbolized by a multi-syllable mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual yet void now be as healthy as a Dharma type depicted in Buddha's statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing yet void now be as fortunate as a pure land of law depicted in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 1/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.